If it feels like listing takes forever, you're not alone. Because a lot of resellers, myself included, especially when I was new, spend way too much time creating listings, taking photos, and repeating the same steps over and over again. But over the years, I've developed a workflow that helps me move inventory quickly from the death pile into active live listings and sales. Well, hey, if you're new here, my name is LeeMeier. I'm a mom of 4, and I've made over $100,000 net profit flipping used clothes online. And now I get to help people like you. And in today's video, I'm gonna show you my exact process, including how I photograph items and create listings start to finish. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll show you the exact way that I turn those listings into fast sales. Let's jump in. All right, now the very first thing that I do is take photos. I don't overcomplicate this, just use my phone. The goal is not magazine quality photography. The goal is clear photos. Front, back, tags, material content, flaws. Bam, 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 and I'm done. I use mannequins for most of my clothing items, frankly, because it's easy. And for things that don't fit on the mannequin, I just do a flat lay. Now, measurements are also a part of my workflow depending on the type of item that I'm working with. If I'm taking pictures on the mannequin, I'll usually wait and grab the measurements while I'm creating the listing. If I'm photographing the flat lay items like pants, skirts, shorts, overalls, other things that don't go on the mannequin, I'll grab the measurements while everything is laid out. My goal here is simple. It's to touch the item as few times as possible. The less that I have to come back later and find something, the faster that I can move on to the next listing. And I'm always working in batches. 5 items or 10 items at a time, even if I'm working on a larger amount. Let's say I'm listing 50 items in a single afternoon, I would still work in batches of 10. I found that for me, that seems to be really motivating to keep up my pace and not get bogged down in a big number of items. Once I'm done batching those photos, that's when I go and upload them into Vendoo. And this is really where the listing process starts to speed up. So instead of creating separate listings on multiple marketplaces, everything starts here, and I have one dashboard to manage my entire business from. Now, one of the biggest time savers in my entire workflow are templates. As soon as those photos are uploaded, they get dropped into a template that I've already created. I have templates set up for different categories, for tops, for sweaters, for dresses, for men's jeans, women's jeans. And because of that, I'm not having to rebuild listings from scratch. A lot of the repetitive information is already in there waiting for me. Even my measurement sections are already built out into these templates. So once I have measurements, I simply drop them in. It's those little time-saving things that add up fast, especially when you're listing a lot of inventory. As photos are getting uploaded, this is where I remove the background. It only takes a few clicks, and it gives the listings a lot cleaner look without having to add a whole lot of extra work to the process. And I'm always asking myself, how can I spend less time on this item to be able to get to the next item quicker? So now that all of those photos are uploaded and the backgrounds are removed, it's time to start building out the listings. I start by filling out the title and then onto the description, and all of what you're seeing here is pretty much coming in from a template. I simply have to drop in what those measurements are. I enter the brand, the condition, the color, and even the SKU number. At this point in my workflow, I already know what that SKU number is going to be. Now, I'm not going to go deep here into the inventory management side of things, but I simply have a container that is labeled, and everything in that container has the same SKU number. And that's what I'm going to put in that SKU field. Because I'm starting from a template, it's already brought in the correct category, so I don't need to enter anything here. I'll simply enter the size and the size type. I'll grab a quick weight on my scale and enter it there. I don't worry about dimensions unless it's hugely oversized, which doesn't really happen with clothing items. Really only that comes into play with hard goods. Now I'm pretty much down to the bottom of this form, and this is where I choose my price. I don't overthink it. I pick a number that I know will work based off of my experience. You also have the option here to enter the cost of goods. So if you'd like to keep track of your exact profits, this is a great way to do it. From here, I click the Save button. And before I show you how to get your item listed and broadcast out to platforms and get sales coming in, I quickly want to mention the tool that you've been watching me use throughout this process. And everything that you've seen so far has happened right inside of Vendoo. The photo uploads, the templates, the background removal, and creating that listing. Now, if you'd like to try Vendoo out for yourself, I'll put a link below. You'll get 25% off of your first month. And if you're planning on sticking with reselling long term, then I definitely recommend taking a look at their annual plan. That's going to give you the biggest savings and all of the features. Now, let's move on to getting your item out to marketplaces, because once that Vendoo listing is complete, I can go and easily publish it across multiple marketplaces: eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Depop, and whatever other platforms make sense for your business. So instead of creating the same listing over and over again, I'm able to build it once and then send it everywhere.
The way this works is simple. Everything you've input so far inside of the Vendoo form is going to populate down through the marketplaces. You're simply going to click on the marketplace and fill out just a couple of pieces of information, usually just things like maybe the size and the shipping method that you want to use for that platform. From here, you click to publish your listing and it's now live.
And one of the biggest mistakes that I see new resellers make is limiting the number of buyers who can see their inventory. And cross-listing solves that problem. As soon as the listing goes live, that's when I put the item away. I get it folded and put in its storage immediately. I don't leave it on the photo table to deal with later. I don't leave it in a pile. I fold it, store it. It already has that assigned SKU number, and that SKU number is entered into Vendoo, so I always know exactly where the item is located. This is perfect for those platforms who don't give you this capability. Now, if an item sells tomorrow or 6 months or in 30 minutes, I can go and find it quickly. No guessing, no having to dig through piles, no wondering where the heck I put it. Some questions that I commonly get is, do I list everything on every platform? And the answer to that is yes, most of the time, because I don't always know where the buyer is going to be coming from. And I've had plenty of sales on platforms that I wasn't even expecting. And so that's one of the reasons that I personally cross-list, is I want my inventory available wherever buyers happen to be shopping at the time. What platform makes you the most money? Well, honestly, it varies day to day. Sometimes no sales on eBay and a ton coming in on Poshmark, and vice versa. It changes day by day. Sometimes eBay wins, and a lot of the time it does win, but sometimes Poshmark wins or Mercari wins. And again, that's exactly why I list everywhere, because you just never really know. Do you change the title on every platform? And the answer to that is no, except if I'm listing to a platform that requires a shorter title, I may need to trim up that title a little bit. But the basic premise, and really in everything I do, is that the easier that I can make things on myself, the better it's going to be. And that principle has served me well. Do you price differently on different platforms? Well, just like that last question, I like to keep things simple. Yes, I could easily have a different price for Depop versus eBay versus Mercari, but the easier my system is to maintain, the more inventory that I can get listed. And so that's where I focus my energy, rather than trying to figure out the perfect price for every platform. Does this work from your phone? Can you do everything from your phone? And the answer to that question, absolutely. You can photograph, create your listing, get it cross-listed, even manage your inventory all from your phone. You'll want to make sure to check out the Vendoo app and have that downloaded. But personally, when I'm creating that listing and type it up, I find that my laptop is a lot faster, especially when it comes to typing if I need to do any research and going through that listing workflow. It's just a personal preference for me, but I usually do all of the photography and uploading of the photos from my phone, and then the rest of it from my computer. And a lot of people ask, what if I already have listings on another platform like eBay or Poshmark? Well, the good news is that you don't have to start over. You can use that work that you already did and actually import your listings into Vendoo. Those existing listings that you already have on eBay, Poshmark, or another marketplace, you can pull those right in and start cross-listing out to other platforms right inside of Vendoo. And that's actually how a lot of sellers get started with cross-listing. You also might be wondering, well, what if I double sell items because I have them broadcast out in multiple places and then I'll have to end up canceling orders and it'll hurt my account? Well, with Vendoo, it has a really cool feature built in of auto sales detection. Now, you do need to go into your connected platforms and you'll see a toggle there to be able to turn this on. Once that's turned on, you can rest easy knowing that that platform is constantly monitoring if a sale happens so that it can then go and automatically remove it from the other platforms where you have it listed. You might also be wondering how long it takes me to create a listing, and it depends on the item. Some are going to be faster than others, but honestly, I don't really focus on the time per listing anymore. Just a few minutes, honestly, it takes me longer to explain the process. I focus more though on the overall workflow because shaving a minute or two off of a listing doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it really does add up. Do you create drafts or schedule or just publish immediately? And this is a great question because this goes back to one of my base philosophies is that live listings sell. Drafts don't sell. And so as soon as a listing is ready to go live, I go ahead and click that publish button. And no, I don't worry about scheduling, even if I'm listing all of my items one day a week. Is cross-listing worth it if I'm only selling part-time? And honestly, this is probably where cross-listing actually helps the most. Because if you're working with a limited amount of time, this is where managing your time and getting your inventory listed in the fastest and most efficient way possible, you're gonna see the biggest return on your investment. Do you need to cross-list everything? And I would say it depends on the item. For me, with clothing, yes, I put every item on every platform. If it's a hard good, which I do occasionally list, I'm gonna deprioritize other platforms where it's not as likely to sell like Poshmark. The nice thing is that you get to decide for your business. What's the biggest mistake that resellers make when listing? For sure, the answer is spending too much time trying to make every listing perfect. You're never going to have a perfect listing. The goal isn't perfection, but the goal is to have your items listed because when they're listed, that's when they'll sell. What if I only sell on eBay? Well, that's perfectly fine. And I get that. I love eBay too. You don't have to cross-list to use Vendoo. And a lot of sellers use it simply because they like the workflow, having those templates, being able to manage inventory, and even having some really good feedback on your analytics of what's selling. Why do you care so much about listing fast? Well, it's not because I'm obsessed with productivity, but it's because I know that every minute that I can save on just one listing can be time spent on getting the next item listed. More listings creates more opportunities for sales. Now, remember at the beginning of the video when I said I'd show you the exact ways that I generate sales once my listings are live. And this is where Vendoo's Pro Tools come in. Now, getting your listings live, it's still the most important thing because buyers can't purchase inventory that they can't see. But once listings are active, Vendoo has tools that can help automate things like sharing on Poshmark, sending offers on multiple platforms, delisting and relisting, and inventory management and other tasks that help keep your business running smoothly. Now, these tools aren't the reason that I started using Vendoo in the first place, but they're the reason that I continue to use Vendoo because it's got these extra capabilities built in to be able to get my listings live and out there faster. My all-time favorite pro tool and the one that I find saves me the most time as well as brings in the most sales is being able to send offers all on one platform inside of Vendoo and not having to go to each platform individually. And if you're looking at using Vendoo, that's one of the reasons that I recommend taking a look at their annual plans, because all of the pro tools that I just mentioned are included. At the end of the day, my goal is simple: to touch every item as few times as possible, to get it photographed, measured, and listed so that sales can start coming in and I can start working on that next batch of inventory. Because I know that every minute I save on one item can be time spent getting the next item listed. And the faster that that inventory gets in front of buyers, the faster that sales are gonna start coming in. That's my exact process, start to finish. Now, if you have questions I didn't answer, drop them in the comments below. And if you're looking for a step-by-step tutorial going into all of the features of Vendoo, including the ones that top resellers use that I didn't have time to mention here, then you'll wanna make sure to check out this next video that I'll have on your screen. Just click here and I'll see you there.